Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us in the Latino Vote Town Hall Forum. My name is Nicole Quiroga, and I'm the President and CEO of the Greater Washington Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. I have here our Chief of Staff, David Diaz, and our Director of Marketing and Communications, Idalis, who alongside of me will moderate portions of this event. I want to thank all of my staff as well as our Board of Directors and certainly all those who are able to join us for this event. Thank you so much for all of your support. A nod and of course recognition to our MC and host, Pedro Biaggi, fantastic radio personality of ENCENDÍO con Pedro Biaggi por la Red Hispana. Pedro, as always, thank you so much for being with us. Ya sabes, such a wonderful chamber supporter. Just a note that Franklin Garcia will not be able to join us due to a last-minute emergency, but he does ask that you please excuse him. Moments ago, we were told that there are 19 candidates, more or less. Sometimes that number may change, but about 19 candidates who are in the running for the at-large DC council seat that David Grosso is vacating. And seeing that we have 4 Latino candidates so far, you look at it and that means that we make up 20% of the candidates. That's a huge history, my friend, victory for our community. We are witnessing remarkable bursts of Latino influence and inclusion. And today we will have the opportunity to hear from our candidates, hear their platforms and policies, their ideas, ask them questions, and most importantly, think about how we can all work together to use this significant moment to finally secure a seat in the district and make our voices heard. This is our time, my friend. No one has ever been successful alone. We do know that. It takes friends, mentors, and inspiring leaders to help us reach our goals. Please let's keep that in mind as we move forward. And to that end, please allow me to introduce my friend, mentor, and inspiring leader, Chairman of our board, Mr. Juan Jara.
Nicole, thank you very much. Good afternoon, buenas tardes to everyone. We're very excited to have this, our first virtual town hall forum with all of you. Today, we're proud to bring together 3 of the 4 Latinx candidates for the at-large seat in the DC Council. As Nicole said, Councilman David Grosso, an ally of Hispanic leaders and residents, is not running for re-election and given the opportunity to the next legislator of the District of Columbia. This time it may be a Latino like us that occupies that seat. We, as the Greater Washington Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and the voice of Hispanic businesses in the region, feel it important to promote our representation in local government. Now, more than ever, it's important that we promote representation so that our day-to-day livelihood is highlighted and represented. You may have seen in the most recent report in collaboration with American University that Latino-owned businesses are affected negatively at wider ranges than our counterparts due to this pandemic. So it's important, as I said, that representation is there for us, and this is why representation matters. We must have a government that provides focused assistance to our constituents. Please know our intent is to introduce these fabulous candidates to you and not necessarily endorse any of them, but really let you make your decision based on today's discussion and introductions. But more importantly, don't forget to vote. It is our responsibility as residents of the district to participate in these upcoming elections. I want to thank our sponsor, El Tiempo Latino, the staff for doing such a wonderful job on putting this together, the candidates for allowing our platform to be yours today and agreeing to attend, and also you, our members, for being our members. We couldn't do this without any of you. And please, if at any time we can be of any help, don't hesitate to reach out to us, the Chamber of Commerce. Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you, Juan. I would like to take this moment to thank our GWHCC partners and sponsors as Toyota, Verizon, DACD, PenFed, Pepco, Events DC for their continued support. And a special thank you to our official Latino Vote Town Hall Forum sponsor, El Tiempo Latino, for forming a part of this event, not only on the promotion side of things, but for always lending a help hand to our members, staff, and more. Rafael Ulloa, Executive Director of El Tiempo Latino, thank you.
Thank you very much, David. Good afternoon. Buenas tardes. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to support this forum. Thank you for the Greater Washington Hispanic Chamber of Commerce for creating this space. Forums like these are very important for our community to learn about the options that are there, Latino options to vote. And it is important because this time more than ever, with all the things that are going on, we need to remind that it is very important to go out and vote. It's very important to fill your census. So thank you again for giving this space to the community, and thank you for partnering with El Tiempo Latino.
Thank you, Rafael, and all the staff at El Tiempo Latino. Now we are moments away from starting our official Q&A panel. I hope you are all ready to go. Before we begin, I would like to explain a couple of house rules, if you will. The Q&A portion has been divided into two sections, each with a 20-minute or so duration. Pedro will introduce now each of the candidates, and all three will have around 30 to 45 seconds to introduce themselves and provide those opening remarks. After which Pedro will begin asking questions and randomly select the candidates that will answer them. The candidates will have 2 minutes to respond. I will be making sure that we stay on schedule and that each candidate is given that fair amount of time and is respectful of their counterparts' turn. After that first session, we will have a very short break where David and I will look at the Q&A portion that you see on the bottom of the Zoom, at the bottom of your screens, and Pedro will interact with you, the attendees, via the chat. We ask that you please interact with us, leave us your comments, your concerns, and more there in the chat and Q&A portion. The second portion will work similarly to the first, but here we will include some of your questions or concerns for that Q&A. I think that covers everything. So Pedro, candidates, are you ready?
Thanks, Idaliz. I think we're more than ready to get going. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. It is my pleasure to be here with you all. Yes, I am Pedro Biaggi. Given the profusion of the candidates, the field might not significantly narrow, at least anytime soon. Some of the candidates have held elected office and worked in government before, but others are political newcomers striving to build name recognition. The general election will take place November 3rd. A couple of weeks ago, the Board of Elections announced that it would proactively send every registered DC voter a mail-in ballot in an effort to avoid the kind of mishaps ranging from miscommunications and long polling place lines to missing mail-in ballots and dysfunctional election app that this year the primary saw. How will the candidates weigh in on issues like affordable housing, transit, development, and public safety? Well, here's your chance to find out. Let's begin. Mario Cristaldo, a nonprofit executive, DC Community Services Award winner, and economic development expert who has been organizing, fighting, and leading affordable housing, living wages, and economic and social justice for more than 20 years in DC. Mario, welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for organizing this important event for all of us here in the District of Columbia. Obviously, the Chamber of Commerce is one of our key organizations organizing and leading in the District of Columbia. So thank you all for doing that. And I'm really excited about this opportunity of letting people know what is taking place right now during this difficult time for all of us. And I welcome the discussion and the feedback from all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mario. Let's give it up for our second candidate, Monica Palacio, appointed by the Mayor Vince Gray in 2014 and reappointed twice by Mayor Muriel Bowser as Director of Office of Human Rights. Monica has established a successful record of establishments as a leader who fights to make sure government system works to meet the need of our city's residents. Monica, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Thank you so much, Pedro, and hello to all the members of the Greater Washington Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. It's really a privilege and an honor to be with you today. I am a civil rights lawyer, a DC government executive. I've been an advocate in DC since 1991, and I'm very excited to join this race as the first Latina to ever run for a seat on the DC City Council. And I'm thrilled to tell you that I will advocate on behalf of small businesses because they are the anchor of our communities. They provide jobs, they provide revenue, they provide support and services, and they always come together. So it's really wonderful to be able to dialogue with you today, and I hope to answer all your questions. Thank you.
Gracias, Monica. Last but never least, let us welcome Alex Pedro, who has led the revitalization of Sherman as an elected advisory neighborhood commissioner for 20 years and has worked on important issues citywide. Pedro wants to help other district neighborhoods that are still waiting to brighter days to get the new improvement that others already enjoy. Without displacement, please, hi, Alex.
Good afternoon, and it's been my honor to represent the Shaw neighborhood for the past 20 years. I'm the longest serving Latino elected official in our city. I've been able to transform a neighborhood that many people only came to visit when they were looking for drugs and turn it into an internationally recognized destination for dining and entertainment. I've been able to add thousands of units of new housing in the neighborhood, including affordable housing. And I've been able to help to attract and support over 400 businesses to the neighborhood. I understand small business, and yes, small businesses are the spice that makes our city exciting. So I look forward to the opportunity to be able to represent the Latino community on the Council of the District of Columbia and to help to make positive change in communities throughout our city.
Awesome, Alex. Thanks for that information. I would like to remind everyone to interact with us, the panelists, and the rest of the attendees throughout the chat of the Q&A. Panelists, are you ready? Please remember that if you are speaking, to unmute yourself, and if you're not speaking, to mute yourself so there is no interference with the other candidates. Thank you. This is a historic year for Latinos in DC. Why do you think it's more important than ever for Latinos to be represented on the council? Monica, let's begin with you. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you so much. Well, I spent 8 years working in the DC government, and I was able to learn and watch over 50 district agencies operate every day. And my concerns are that on the council, we have not had an advocate and a strong voice for immigrants, Latino immigrants, African immigrants, Asian immigrants. We have not had representation at all. So what happens when it comes to passing laws around business licensing, around language access, around driver's licenses? We're always the last group to be considered. We don't have someone fighting for us and putting us first. We deserve to be a priority in Washington, D.C. We help build this city. We help run this city. And our issues need to be kept at the top of the list, not an afterthought. But it's happened too many times, and it happened most recently when the city council passed legislation and funded relief for workers. Our undocumented workers, our immigrant workers were not considered a priority. They had to go to other sources to get support. So for me, I think that having Latino representation is absolutely one of the most important priorities. We also see the revolution of the Black Lives Matter movement, and I think this is a chance for Latino community and the Black community to come together. I bring 25 years of working on racial equity and coalition building, so I know that we have to be careful during tough economic times so that our communities are not polarized, so we're not pitted against each other. So with a strong Latino voice, I think we can work to ensure that we build stronger communities, safer schools, invest in businesses, and invest in workers without leaving anybody out. Thank you.
Sorry, Pedro, you're muted. But while you unmute yourself, Alex, your 2 minute turn begins now.
Right now. Thank you, Mama.
Thank you. The Latino community in Washington, D.C. is a minority. And as a minority, it is often difficult for our voices to be heard. For the first time, it may be possible for the Latino community to have a seat at the table, at the dais, at the DC Council. This is an opportunity for folks that may not encounter Latinos in everyday life, even though we are in every ward of the city, to be able to understand the contributions that we make. So many of us are essential workers. We are helping to make the city work. We help businesses and small business to be able to thrive. We are also very impacted when there are major disruptions like the current pandemic that is having such a negative impact on all of our small businesses that are employers for so many of us. This is a time to be able to find the resources to help our small businesses to be able to survive. I do fear that without additional help, as many as 50% of small businesses throughout the city may not be able to survive. My experience during the course of the past 17 years as executive director of Shaw Main Streets has shown me that working with small businesses hand in hand is the best way to be able to ensure their survival. There are resources that can be brought to bear to help our small businesses. I especially would like to try to see property tax relief used to help to ensure that so many of our businesses that are threatened with extinction right now are able to survive. So, and also to help to develop, affordable housing. I've been able to work with developers and other stakeholders to be able to renovate affordable housing throughout our city, to be able to ensure that folks of more modest means are able to stay in our city and not be forced out, as many people have had to. So I look forward to the opportunity to use my experience for the benefit of all of the District of Columbia, but especially for the Latino community.
Thank you. Mario, your thoughts.
Thank you. As we all know, Latinos are about 10% of the population in the District of Columbia in the last 20 years. We are a vibrant part of the District of Columbia. The bone of our communities actually is the small businesses that we've created during all these times. And to be honest, we haven't given the share of the prosperity in the last 20 years. We have strengthened our community-based organizations. We have developed some of our parts of our community to stay in DC, but still we're being displaced. And I believe that at this time, the small business owners, Latino business owners, need a little bit of break. We haven't gotten much from the government. The government of the District of Columbia is made, the budget of the District of Columbia is about $16 billion. How much of that amount is given for our small businesses, Latino small businesses? We don't know, because there haven't been anything related to any policies related to us that have given us the idea of what is the share that we are given. So that's why it's so important that one of us, based on experience, based on track record and investment tenacity, would have to be at the council office so we can have a better share in the District of Columbia.
Thank you, Mario. Let's go to question number 2. How will the Latino community be represented now that we may hold a DC council seat? And most importantly, how will you bring economic parity to Latinos in DC? Mario, we're going to begin with you. You have 2 minutes on the clock.
Absolutely. So the number one thing here in the District of Columbia is our budget, our annual budget. In order for us to get more opportunities for us, we need to follow the money. What does it mean, following the money? Is starting early on, as October of every year, to follow what the budget is doing in the District of Columbia. And that's very important, because by February of each given year, the mayor of the District of Columbia has to share the proposed budget to the city council. This is the time that we need to be engaged, the leadership, the community-based organizations and other stakeholders, including the small business owners, or where and how the city is going to be spending all this money. That's why it's so important that one of us is at the city council following up on this issue. So this is one of the ways to following up the money and to making sure that there is opportunities for us at the right time.
Thanks, Mario. Alex, what are your thoughts?
Well, I've been part of the district government for 20 years, and as a result, I know how it works and sometimes how it doesn't work. I understand the budget process. You need to have a voice at the table. Having a member of the council that is a Latino will be able to sensitize all of the council to the fact that the Latino community has been underserved in so many ways, and I would be able to look for opportunities to better fund initiatives that specifically target the Latino community and to try to make up for some of the deficits in terms of services to the Latino community and also to small businesses. I would make sure that agencies have to report to the extent that is possible on how they are serving the Latino community within their specific areas of interest and control. The reality is that we have to ask. Very often, as Latinos, we don't realize that there are opportunities, there is funding out there, and others compete more successfully for it. We need to be able to understand what those opportunities are, and I would work to share those opportunities widely with the community, with community partners like the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, so that we don't leave money on the table. All too often, those opportunities that rightly belong to the Latino community end up going elsewhere because we haven't asked for those funds. So, through the budget process and through advocacy for all of the stakeholders in the Latino community, I would make sure that in the future, the Latino community receives our fair share of the budget.
Thanks, Alex. Monica, what do you think?
Well, I was very interested to read the report that was put out yesterday by the chamber, and it looks like 65% of businesses, Latino small businesses, are facing extreme or very hard challenges right now. And one of the themes that I read was that our businesses feel excluded. They don't have enough access in terms of language. They don't have the relationships with financial institutions. They're struggling to get the loans and the grants that they need right now in order to remain solvent, in order to be able to survive these economic tough times. I think that my experience makes me uniquely qualified, because what have I done in the district government for 8.5 years? I fought to take down the barriers that were in the way for businesses to get licenses at DCRA, for individuals to apply for services because they needed language access. And that was one of the themes in the report. Our businesses feel excluded. The Latino community, even though the Latino businesses may be coming together to support each other, we do have to be more ambitious when it's time to knock down the door or kick down the door and say, we need resources too. We need support. We need loans and grants. And we have to figure out where the institutions are that are not serving our Latino businesses. We have to fight to knock down those doors and open those doors too, because it's not enough for the district government to post resources. We need to navigate and help our community access those resources and win those contracts.
Thank you, Monica. To our third question, which the candidates will answer. Unlike the other two, they will only have 1 minute to provide their answers. What do you think are the greatest challenges facing the DC Latino community today, and what issues do you believe has the highest priority to address? Let's begin with you, Alex.
The COVID-19 pandemic has caused obviously a huge number of jobs to be lost. Some of those jobs may never be replaced. We will need to be able to retrain Latino workers for new job opportunities here in the city. Increasingly, small businesses need additional support in order to be able to retain their employees. A huge number of the Latino community work in the hospitality industry, and as a result of the fact that the hospitality industry is under such threat, we need to try to find opportunities for Latinos to become entrepreneurs in order to create additional jobs and not merely take the jobs that are available. So employment, maintenance of employment, and maintenance of small businesses that employ so many Latinos are going to be, critical to the community's ability to survive and thrive in the future in the city.
Thank you. Let's hear from you, Monica.
Well, I think all issues are Latino issues. So when it comes to education, when it comes to housing, when it comes to public safety, our community is, as long as we leave any member of our community invisible and vulnerable, the entire Latino community is vulnerable. So what are the key issues? They're the same issues that everybody wants. They want excellent schools for their children. They want to be able to walk down the street safely. They want to be able to run a business and have the support of their government as they should. They want to be able to have affordable housing or to own their first home and help their children go to college. I mean, Latino families are some of the hardest working families, and business owners are some of the most incredible and resilient business owners that we see not only in the region, but in the country. So how do we better fight for everyone to have access to education, housing, safety, and also the ability to run your business and survive? I think that working together and supporting a candidate that will get on the council and fight for us is an incredible priority, but we have to get behind each other. We have to work together. We have to mobilize the votes. And maybe all those votes won't come from a Latino community, but our community is spread across the entire city. And that's why it's important to have an at-large position. And this position is unique in this moment in history, is unique because we'll be able to not only gather the support of the Latino community, but work across all other communities to say it's time for Latinos to have a voice on the city council and to fight for the issues all the issues that are our issues.
Thank you, Monica. Mario, your response.
Yes, so we're talking about here all the issues that we already have been experiencing the last 20 years in the community, in the Latino community. Those are the same priorities that we still have now. The coronavirus pandemic only exacerbated all this issues and all these challenges that we are facing as a community. We still need real affordable housing, but affordable housing for low and working class families, mainly folks who are making less and up to $50,000 per year. The District of Columbia has been producing affordable housing, but for higher income folks. Now we need affordable housing for Latinos and for other minority groups. Those are the same priorities. We need high quality education, not only in our public schools, but also adult education. Some of our Latino families, they need adult education besides the regular job they're doing every day. They need rent control. We need to strengthen our rent control. We need to reclaim our rent control. We need living wages, jobs that pay living wages. All of this can be done with any one of us in the council as an at-large council member. But what is interesting about all of us is among all the candidates, I'm the only one here that I've worked within the city council before. I was advisor for Councilmember Anita Bonds for several years in issues related to seniors, to affordable housing and community development. And I've seen from the inside how the policies are being worked out and how the details are being done. And we are not there at the table. So this is the urgency. The urgency is that we all still experiencing all the same issues and problems. And it's being exacerbated by COVID-19. And now we need someone that has experience, commitment, tenacity at City Council.
Your time is almost up, Mario. Thank you so much, though. Pedro.
Okay, thank you all. We still have a little bit more time on this first section, so let us do one final question before taking a short break. Here's the question. How to help all the small businesses who are struggling to stay open or need to close during these times? Let's begin this question with Alex.
So this is actually what I do for a living. Right now, I have 342 businesses that I'm responsible for in the Shaw neighborhood. And on a daily basis, I get phone calls about what resources are available to help me pay my rent this month. How am I going to be able to retain my employees? How can I make customers comfortable with coming back to patronize my business again at this difficult time? And in every case, the answer is different. It's a one-on-one basis. We have to talk to our business owners. We have to look for additional resources. We have to lobby, our district government and our federal government for additional resources to be able to help our businesses survive. Because, in some cases, they don't have the resources, the reserves to be able, to make it to another phase of our recovery. So it's an individual basis. It is looking at issues such as property tax relief, as I mentioned before. That's one of the biggest expenses that all of our businesses have to deal with. But in every neighborhood, there are businesses that will be able to survive with some help, and there are some that are not going to be able to survive. And it's going to be critical to make sure that Latino businesses have additional resources to be able to make it, so that a year from now, they can still be employing members of our community.
How would you help the small businesses who are struggling to stay open or need to close during these times?
Absolutely. I mean, I think, there are different ways that we can help. The local government should create some kind of PPP program, a paycheck package program similar to the federal government. As I said, this is a rainy day, you guys, and we need to make sure that small business owners stays afloat. We need to give them a little bit of break on their taxes. And those are very difficult things to do, but needs to be done now. We need to put a pressure on the federal government for the second wave of the economic package. We haven't gotten that yet. In the first round, we have gotten some, but it didn't get to our community. So in this second round, we're hoping that we can get those dollars to our community as well.
Thank you. That was the great first round. Now let's give our panelists a round of applause. Yes, please.
We're missing
no, me falta
Monica.
Mónica. No, pero que yo me quiero, como que me quiero ir para Mónica. Bendito sea Dios. Dale, mi amor.
Gracias, Pedro. So again, I've been doing my homework and I was reading this incredible report. And I think that, again, access to loans and grants is my understanding is one of the key resources that our Latino businesses need right now. And that we know that because we're relatively new businesses to the region, or maybe they have been operating, with low liquidity, or they just haven't figured out how to access the resources. This is how we break down the first barrier. We need to include more accessibility, navigators, a way to ensure that information is translated, that is delivered, that it's understood, and that we support people in accessing the resources that are available. Number one. Number two, in the Reopen DC report, I also understand that there are creative ways that businesses can reinvent themselves to help sanitize, to help have more access to customers. Latino businesses rely on access to customers more than other traditional businesses. So how do we help a business create a second location? How do we expedite that license? How do we make sure that district agencies are not getting in the way? Because even though I know, and I love the district government in many ways, it can be slow to change and it can be slow to respond sometimes. So as your councilwoman, I want to make sure that government responds more quickly as we face challenges, whether there's a second wave, a third wave, no matter what comes, we have to be better prepared, provide access, and help businesses navigate through the bureaucracy.
Ahora sí, un aplauso.
Ahora
que se oiga. And we're going to get ready to take a short break so so they can collect their thoughts. While on this short break, David and Idalise, please mind me helping me out with the Q&A so we can prepare for our second portion of this forum. Attendees, let us hear from you. What were your thoughts on this first round? What are some important topics you would like to discuss? Send us your questions, please, to the Q&A section below, and let us hear from you throughout the chat. So let's take a 5-minute break, and we're going to now entertain the questions that we're dealing with in the chat. Yes?
Hi, Pedro. So we have a couple of Q&A questions here, and we actually have an interesting one from Greta. It says, are the Latino votes the ones that really count, or do you think you need to get the buy-in of the other demographic? So I think that's a very interesting question. I don't know, what are your thoughts?
I'll take that question first. As you all know, the DC Latino Caucus is one of the few political-based advocacy organization in the District of Columbia that's been really active, a small dedicated group of folks looking into the political aspect of our community. In the last 20 years, there was this great opportunity for us to have some impact in Ward 1, for example, where at one point we had 1/3 of the votes, but because of displacement, we had to, people were displaced, Latinos were displaced from Ward 1 and moved to Ward 4 and other parts of the city. So now we're having Ward 4, in Ward 4, more people, more Latinos than anywhere else. But as we see around, we don't have any specific area where we could have an impact. So at large, we don't have much power as a Latino community only to be able to get enough votes to elect an at-large council member. So we need the understanding, the solidarity, and the vote of our brothers and sisters of the Black community and the Caucasian community as well. So this candidate should be someone that has been able to work with all these groups throughout all these years to be able to make it at large. This is not a small task. This is a very difficult task, and that's the challenge we're facing in this election.
Thank you, Mario.
We have a question. Thank you. We have a question. Also says, well, Greta, would you say that you have a strong presence in the Latino community? You feel they know who you are and how you will be servicing them? What percentage of Latinos in the city would you actually say will vote?
So that sounds like a question that has different parts.
Correct.
Right? So the first part is, do I as a candidate have a strong presence in Latino community? Absolutely. I've been here since 1990. I came as a student and I started working in my community in 1992. As soon as the Latino Civil Rights Task Force was formed, I was a law student volunteer, and I've worked in schools like Bell Multicultural, volunteering as a teacher. I've also worked with organizations like Ayuda, Carecen, and many of our beloved Latin American Youth Center, and many local leaders that I've worked with over the years. I've been here so long that some of these organizations don't exist anymore. But I would say that, yes, it's important to have a strong presence in the Latino community, but as a candidate representing the entire city, we have to reach all voters and make sure that we respond to all the interests of different demographics across the city, but also different nonprofit organizations, different businesses, and think about how, again, to bring a message of community and solidarity across different groups. Many people say, oh, the Latinos, they don't vote. And I'd like to change that. I'd actually like to change the law so that if you are a district resident and you are a taxpayer, you can vote. And I think that that's an important priority for the council in the coming years.
Thank you, Monica. We have another question aquí that I would like to Alex to answer. Is, given the pandemic is still challenging for gatherings, how the candidates are planning to let their voice are being heard from the DC constituency?
This is a challenge. I've been waiting to run for council for 20 years, and I never imagined that it was going to be at a time when knocking on doors was not going to be seen as something that would be welcomed. So I'm looking at using video, using online opportunities, technology to be able to reach out, and to the extent that it is safe. I am planning to visit different neighborhoods throughout the city and in socially distanced ways to be able to greet and speak to groups of our constituents, not just in the Latino community, but but throughout the city.
Thank you, Alexander.
Well, the short break is officially over. Yes, David?
Yes, correct.
Thank you to all those that interact with us. Send in your questions and comments and provide us with your concerns, please. David and Idaliz have looked at the Q&A and believe we have some good questions to include in this second portion. Candidates, are you ready to continue? As always, I would like to remind you to stick to your times and remember that if you are speaking, to unmute yourself, and if you're not speaking, to mute yourself so there is no interference with the other candidates. Thank you. Let us begin now with the 2-minute question on housing. Briefly, explain your position on creating housing opportunities at all income levels and the role you think the council plays in making life better for all residents of DC, regardless of their immigration status. Once again, each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond. Let's begin this with Mario.
As you all know, my background is in community economic development. And from the beginning, I work in affordable housing, home ownership opportunities for district residents for almost 8 years with MANA, a housing developer in the District of Columbia, one of the most renowned nonprofit organizations in the area. And because of my background, I believe that there are several things that we need to do in terms of giving opportunities to Latinos to become homeowners, for example. It's very important to give us stability here in the District of Columbia. And we need to do this providing housing to folks who are at the bottom of the 50% of the area median income. That means that the government needs to change its direction in terms of what is producing in affordable housing. As you all know, this administration is only focusing on workforce development, 50 and 80 and 20% of the area median income, which doesn't really get to our communities. We also need to strengthen and reclaim our rent control. So some folks are not ready for home ownership, but we need stability and we need to stay in the city. And so then we need to get rent control increased from 1976, where the rent control is now for buildings up to 1976, to 2011, when the inclusionary zoning is put in place. Inclusionary zoning is something that the mayor actually is.
That's your time, Mario. Thank you, though.
Inclusionary zoning later.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Alex, your answer.
So the two things I think are the most important in order to be able to increase the amount of affordable housing that we're creating with the amount of subsidy that we're putting in as a city. These are our tax dollars that we're using to help to leverage private investment, is to make sure that we're choosing the projects that are bringing the most bang for the buck. There have been several notable cases recently where projects that were very lowly rated, lowly ranked compared to other proposals, were chosen to receive that they did not even apply for. We need to have a much more oversight over this process to make sure that we're spending wisely. But also we need to think outside of the box. And I think the best example of how I've done this is when the city market development was being proposed in the center of Shaw, where the old O Street Market was located. The community was asked, what are the amenities that the community would like to see in exchange for additional density so that additional market market rate housing could be built? And my answer was affordable housing for seniors. And we actually worked with a partner, EMEA Services for the Aging, to come up with a concept that was shared with the developer, Roadside Development, to build a building that seniors from throughout the city would be able to use their housing vouchers to be able to move to brand new housing where they would be able to enjoy all of the amenities, where market rate tenants were paying as much as $8,000 a month to be able to do. And you know what? That 91 unit building has been such a success that there is a 500-person waiting list for that. So we need to think outside of the box and come up with different opportunities. Developers are usually welcoming of opportunities when projects make good sense and have the support of the community.
Thank you, Alex. Monica, your answer.
Thank you. So I want to share three specific policy proposals that I would make. And the first is that we have to support low-income and working families by increasing the 50% increase in our affordable housing investment every year. And even though we're facing difficult economic times, we cannot afford to stop building and producing and protecting affordable housing. Number two, we have to support rent control. I do agree that this is an important priority, and we need more aggressive rent control laws. I can tell you that growing up, I grew up in New York City after my family moved to the United States from Colombia. I was 3 years old, and one of the few reasons that we could afford to live in New York City while my dad worked in a factory and my mom went to school was rent control. And that is a vital survival strategy for families. Number three, we need to help families that are facing economic devastation right now and help reform rapid rehousing so that families find more permanent solutions to housing insecurity. So that's really, really critical. And I also want to say that we need a long-term plan. We need an aggressive vision because development is happening. We can't stop it. But during my job as the director of the Office of Human Rights, I worked on the mayor's team to think about racial equity and what we called anti-displacement zones. So anchoring businesses, protecting affordable housing, investigating discrimination when a family brings a housing voucher to rent an apartment. All of these are strategies to make sure that we protect our families and our workers and our businesses who need a place to live in the district.
Thank you, Monica. So next question, what are your thoughts on healthcare in the Latino community in the context of coronavirus pandemic, and what is your vision on DC post-COVID? Let's begin this with Alex.
So we as a city have made, great strides in terms of providing insurance coverage for all of our citizens. We've come a long way, but we have, further that we have to go. Healthcare is a human right. It is not a privilege. We need to make it possible for all employers to offer healthcare that is more affordable and to provide additional subsidies for healthcare so that all parts of our community, all ages, especially seniors, are able to access the healthcare that is needed. We need more community-based healthcare services because all too often there are challenges in terms of geography. How far do you have to go if you're having an emergency in order to be able to get to an emergency room? We need to make sure that there are facilities that are equitably located, throughout our city, so that distance to a hospital is not a life-threatening challenge. We need to look at providing, additional maternal healthcare services to make sure that our youngest, residents of the district are able to start out life, on the best footings. Just as the Books from Birth, program looks to emphasize the early childhood education, we need to look at early childhood health as well. But at the other end of the range, there are so many seniors that don't get the healthcare that they need and suffer from multiple conditions that threaten their ability to live healthy and long lives. So we need to increase those healthcare availabilities as well.
Which one?
Monica, we go with you.
Okay.
Monica, we're with
Thank
you.
you. So, I learned a lot about health and healthcare in the last few years. I had the privilege of working with Dr. Nesbitt at the Department of Health, and also a lot of incredible healthcare providers like Maria Gomez at Mary Center. And we have redefined the way we think about health. Health is not just, being able to see a doctor. Health is not just, do you have insurance, but it is, do you have access to healthy food? Are you working 20 hours a day and sleeping 3 hours a day? How much stress are you experiencing? What are your underlying chronic conditions, and are those being treated? So health is really a revolutionary theme right now. And I think it's really important for us to think about not just, our Latino community. My greatest concern is that they're working so hard, they're trying to survive, are they really doing the basic prevention strategies to stay healthy and to think about access to food for themselves and their children? During COVID, as I drive past 16th and Harvard or 16th and Irving, I see the line wrapped around the block for families looking for groceries for their to feed their children. This concerns me. This is a health factor, right? How are we going to take care of families who are experiencing so much economic insecurity? So I think we need a whole paradigm shift in terms of thinking about health and how we provide people better quality of life, so that they're not just, going to an emergency room because they have finally, broken down because of the stress in their lives.
That's amazing.
Alex.
Actually, it's my.
No, it's Mario's turn. Mario, go ahead.
Well, I believe that, and we all know that health is a human right. So I think we need to recreate all this idea that we should have, it should be a no-brainer to have Medicare for all of us, preventing and all kinds of options. We need to change that. And here in the District of Columbia, actually, we've been doing really well in terms of providing a lot of that. And Mary Center, it's been highlighted as one of the Latino-based organizations that are providing community health care to all of us, including Latinos and other minority groups. So I think we can strengthen this. It can be done at local level. We have already the Alliance Insurance Program, which is given to non-documented immigrants and others. So we need to enhance that and provide affordable housing for all of us. Of course, we need to take care not only about of our health when we're sick or when we need emergency situations, but also it's got to be preventive, and it should be done as for all, as Medicare for all. Thank you.
I would like to say hello to Ricardo Villalba, who is now in the chat with us. And I have a combination of a question from Zulema Tijero and the question we have here. Saludos, Zulema. Bendiciones para ti. And Zulema asked the following question: how would you go about bringing together our Latino Hispanic brothers and sisters with the current Black Lives Movement? Let's start with that with Alex.
So it's been my privilege to represent a very diverse neighborhood for the past 20 years, about equally divided between African Americans and Caucasians, but with some other populations. And it's incredible that when people get around the table and start talking about the things that are important to them, you realize that the divisions, the differences between people are not as great as you might imagine. People want, cleaner, safer, neighborhoods. They want to be able to walk down the street and do their shopping. They want to be able to walk to work. They want to be able to know that that their neighbors are well and safe, and to know their neighbors. And the Main Street program that I have helped to foster, that is now in 24 different neighborhoods around the city, is a wonderful example of that, because people have to volunteer and roll up their sleeves and decide what are the priorities that they're going to undertake for their community and work together. When people get to work together, you break down those barriers between people, and we don't have the other syndrome. You have us, not them. And I think that increasing opportunities for neighbors to work together would go a long way towards being able to work together towards solving the issues that challenge our society.
Thank you.
Well, I've spent about 25 years working on the themes of race and discrimination, and most recently as a civil rights lawyer, and working to investigate cases of discrimination based on race. So there are many different approaches. I think this is the time for all of us, including the Latino community, to take the Black Lives Matter movement very seriously. That doesn't mean that we have to be angry at each other, or hit each other over the head with a rock to get people to understand race. But I think we need to do work in our families, work in our communities, work in our neighborhoods, in our businesses, to talk about what are the stereotypes that I learned when I was young in my family. What are the stereotypes in my culture, in my native country, that I may have been burdened with, that I may have been, loaded onto me, whether I wanted them or not. And be very honest and say, it's time for us to take responsibility for the racism that exists in Latin American countries, in Latino culture, in our families, and to know that we don't treat each other very fairly based on skin color. Now is the time for us to reckon with that and work on that and be honest about it, and also make a safe space for Latinos to talk about it. But at the end of the day, we all get along and we know how to create those bridges across groups. But people in the Latino community, they take one look at me, ay, que blanquita, right? And that is, it's not just a message to me that somehow my skin color has a certain value, but it's a message that other skin color has less value. Those conversations are very difficult to have, but the Black Lives Matter movement, I think, is inviting us to have those conversations today. And we can do it. We have to have the courage to do it. We have to stick together. We don't have to attack each other. But race is basically pollution, right? Racism is pollution. We have to deal with it. It affects all of us.
Thank you. Mario.
I also believe that Black Lives Matter. I've been working in the community in the various parts of the community of the city, and wards 7 and 8 are the highest percentage of African Americans, and I've done some development projects in the area while working with MANA, and I know that those communities are suffering now. And through that experience, I've been working and getting in solidarity with other brothers and sisters. And I believe that with the diversity of our Latino community actually is very helpful in this situation, because we have our Afro-Latino brothers and sisters here in the district, and they've been very incredible active in the last 5 years in reaching out to all different communities, and I'm really proud of being part of that as well. So individually, we have to make a commitment of solidarity and working together, but at the same time, we need to understand that we are in the same boat all together. Whatever the issues they're facing, we're facing as well. We are part of this great society, which is the District of Columbia. This is actually the vision that we have all together, to live in a world class that is diverse as a city, livable, walkable, and that is for all, is for all of us, regardless of economics and racial status.
And now we're going to go to the final question of the evening. And listen to me, please. Okay, tell us one unique thing about yourself, hello, check it out, that will make voters choose you as their candidate. Let's begin that with Alex.
The unique thing. I think one of the things that is most unique about me is that that I am. When people ask me, what am I? I'm a Latino, but I'm also a mutt. I have some African slave in me. I have some French background. I have Italian background. Background from Spain and Portugal, even England. All of those elements, sort of like making a stew, help to characterize me and make me understanding of the diversity that we have in our city and appreciative of the diversity that we have in our city. Last night I made an asapao de camarones for dinner, and as I was chopping up all of those ingredients and trying to get the balance just right, that's the same as trying to create balance and equity in our city and in our community. If you have too much of one thing and not enough of another, then there isn't balance, there isn't equity. And I think my understanding for how to make change happen in the neighborhood, I've been an agent of change, for 2 decades, is the type of thing that will be attractive to people throughout the city, because people want to see their neighborhoods improve. They want to see living conditions improve, education improve, our economy improve, and I have a proven track record of being able to have a positive impact on all of those elements. So I'm a mutt. I'm proud of it, and I think that being able to spend some time on all of the different kinds of issues that are important to our city will be important as a council member.
Mario, one unique thing about yourself. No se oye.
Mario, you're muted.
I think that the uniqueness of my personality actually has 3 different areas. One is the issue of experience. I'm gladly a part of the group of young professionals that have been working not only for nonprofit organizations in the district, but also for in the Gray administration. I was part of the Department of Housing and Community Development, working on issues related to inclusionary zoning, administrating inclusionary zoning, and also working as part of a staff in the city council. And experience is very important for this position of at-large DC City Council. Also, I have the tenacity of working for issues, really hard issues. When I was an executive for the Vida Senior Center, we were in desperate need of reorganizing the organization structures so we could survive. And we were able to work together for 2 years to be able to overcome this situation and get Vida back on track. So this is the reason why people should be looking at me as the next at-large city council. So I'm asking for everybody's support and vote in this next November election. Thank you.
Monica.
Thank you, Pedro. Well, I smiled when you asked that question because obviously one of the most unique things about me is I'm a woman. But I'm not going to talk about that, although that does infuse me with certain superpowers. But I think one of the unique things about me is being a civil rights lawyer and being trained as a lawyer gives me a pit bull killer instinct that I can turn on and I can turn it off, right? I don't think that we have to approach every situation in a combative way. I don't think that we have to be aggressive all the time. I believe in coalition building. I believe in creating a middle ground and finding optimal solutions. Anybody who worked on my staff at the Office of Human Rights will tell you, Monica's favorite word is optimal. We don't need perfect, and we don't need a solution next year, but we need a solution quickly that is optimal. It doesn't mean it has to be half-baked, but many times in life, we give up on solving a problem because we don't think we have the perfect answer. There's always an answer. We can be, being a lawyer makes me resourceful. It makes me curious. It makes me eager to learn. It makes me fight, and it makes me ask the questions that have to be asked. And I'll tell you, when you're facing the city council, as I have done so many times in dozens of hearings, and you have to figure out, what is the question that needs to be answered? Not necessarily what is the question that's being asked, right? What is the true question? What is the real problem? And how do we find the real solution? And I think that being a civil rights attorney gives me the edge, and it gives me the experience to win.
Thank you, Monica. And that concludes our Q&A portion of the evening. Please continue interacting with us on the chat if you have specific questions for the candidates. Idaliz will be website information so you can contact them directly. As we finish tonight's event, I would like to give the candidates the opportunity to close up with 30 to 45-second remarks. We're going to start with Mario Cristaldo.
Thank you. As we can see from this town hall meeting today, we have a common vision, a collective vision of the District of Columbia that we all share. This is a world-class city that is diverse, that is livable, walkable, and that is affordable for all of us. And where people from different backgrounds, from different parts of the world can come together regardless of economic status and social issues. We can do better. And that's what we all believe here in the District of Columbia. And with someone like a city council that can fight for us, for the issues that we care about, someone that is gonna work with the small business owners to starting this next fiscal year, we can improve the conditions of our small businesses.
Mario, you have 10 seconds.
So I thank you for your time, and I'm asking again for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you.
Every neighborhood deserves to have the amenities and the qualities that the neighborhoods like Shaw have today. I've been able to help to transform a neighborhood from one where no one wanted to be to one where everyone wants to be. I have had the honor of representing this neighborhood and helping to transform it. I would love to have the opportunity to represent the Latino community and to help neighborhoods throughout our city become all that they can be, and to help every neighborhood achieve its dreams. Please go to my website, alexpondro.com, find out more about what I've done in the past and what I could do for the community and for our city.
Thank you, Alex. Monica.
Well, I'm just so excited to do this, because when I see the faces of people who say, you're a woman that's running, you're a mother, you're an attorney, you have done so much, what made you do this? And I say, it's time for us to stop being silent in the background as a Latino community. We have to be at the front of the room, at the top of the class, leading, speaking out, and fighting for our working families. I tell you, in district government, I learned that sometimes government can overlook the most vulnerable and the people that need the most help. And we can't afford that right now. We have to have the strongest voices fighting for us. And as a mother, believe me, if somebody was standing between me and helping my child, I would mow them down. And I think that's the spirit and the energy we need to bring to this election. And we need a candidate like me that's going to fight for us.
Thank you so much. Thank you to the candidates for these words. Okay, I hope you learn a little bit more about our Latino candidates. The platforms are more. Now I pass the torch to Nicole Quiroga, our president and CEO of the Greater Washington Hispanic Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you so much, Pedro. And thank you really to everyone who's taken the time to be with us. I mean, we know that in order to make history and leave a legacy, it takes time, it takes effort, it takes commitment, it takes everything you have. And this is very hard work. And there are going to be conversations that get quite tedious and long because they're detail oriented. But in my opinion, it's absolutely vital for all of us to listen and learn from you, our candidates, and really become well-versed on the issues that you're facing, that we're dealing with, so that we really are in the know and can support you as best we can. I want to thank you all for your time, for being with us today, for sharing, for taking on the challenge and putting it on your shoulders to ensure that our community is well represented, well served. Thank you all so much.